name is Lorraine Boissoneault, and I live in Oak Park, which is just outside of Chicago, and I'm a writer. I started having a lot of autoimmune diseases when I was in my early 20s, but I didn't start thinking of myself as someone with a disability until I developed psoriatic arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease. And that was much more debilitating to my daily life. I think a big part of it is the culture shift and the movement for independent living that happened alongside the ADA, being able to see other members of the disability community out in the community living their lives. There are a lot of disability justice advocates whose work has really shaped the way that I've thought about disability and the way that I conceive of myself moving through the world. And without the ADA, I don't know that those stories would be so broadly accessible. I think the real area that I see it a lot and that I see some of the pitfalls is since the COVID pandemic started, there was a lot of support for keeping people healthy and protecting the most vulnerable, and that has largely fallen away. And I think that's where I see the need for more work to be done, that we still need to be aware of the fact that COVID is a disabling disease. I think one of the strangest parts of my experience was that I had been living for a long time with invisible disabilities and then developed a vocal cord disorder called abductor spasmodic dysphonia. And this is now the most obvious aspect of my disabilities. And it is also something that I find the least onerous to deal with. It was hard at first getting used to my voice sounding very different from what it had used to sound like, but it doesn't cause me any pain. It's not a problem with face-to-face communication or in small group settings. The only place that it's really difficult is in noisy, crowded places because people tend not to be able to hear me in those places. But I also usually think of it as the least difficult to manage of my conditions, even though it is the first thing people become aware of when I'm interacting with them, versus things like arthritis or endometriosis. They are much harder to deal with because they cause pain, and chronic pain is very disabling in different ways. I do think of myself as part of the disability community, and it's honestly given me a lot of comfort and support. I think when you have chronic illnesses, there's a large part of the population that is constantly urging you to get better or find a cure or take XYZ supplement or do this exercise or do this meditation or be on a constant search for something that will heal you from your chronic illness. Accepting that my conditions do disable me, that I am disabled, has been really freeing because it has released me from the need to constantly be searching for whatever might cure me and make peace with where I am and where I might be someday. We're not living in a culture that wants to think about disability and chronic illness. I think it's treated almost the same way as death, where you do everything in your power to avoid contemplating the possibility of it happening to you. But as we were talking about earlier, disability is a normal part of life that happens to almost everyone if you live long enough. And I think there needs to be way more conversations way earlier in a person's life, like when you're younger, especially about disability and about chronic illness, because living in a moment of climate change means there are going to be more people who become disabled because of extreme weather events, because of pollution, because of things like heat waves. So I think we need to have a real reckoning with what disability and chronic illness are and how many people in society they actually impact and will impact